I think a big topic here is just managing people.
Yeah.
I think that that's a huge part of this whole growth process. I think it's something that we're both learning, frankly, on the fly. I have, prior to being here, prior to doing my own thing real estate wise, and then later working with John, I worked essentially at an entry level role at a big bank. So I had nobody working beneath me. I had zero managing responsibility. So it really wasn't until we were working together and that we either were managing subcontractors or our own people that I've really had to have any sort of management experience, or that I've gained any management experience. So there's definitely been a learning curve there. I think we struggle with certain aspects of this. I think we've made a lot of strides in certain aspects of this.
I think it's a lot of learning by doing, really. You know, I think it's tough to, you could read books about how to manage people, but actually implementing it is a lot different. And it's, at least in my experience, it's kind of different on the person. You know, some people, their skills are such that they require more or less handholding, or whatever. So, that's an iterative process that we've had to learn more about as we go on.
Yeah. Absolutely, and I think it's something that we've obviously been doing this, spending a lot of time doing this, and frankly, it's something that has had a probably outsized impact on our business. But I would say it's not something that we've necessarily approached with a lot of intention. And I think personally for 2022, one of my goals was to become a little bit more hands off with a lot of the things that we do. And the best way to accomplish that in my eyes is to empower others. And I think that kind of requires or mandates a certain level of management, and a certain understanding of how to work with people, how to manage people, how to lead people. And, we haven't really done this or talked about this really, but I think that's definitely an aspect of the business that I think we could, that would merit a little bit more attention than it gets.
Agreed. Yeah, I think so. I think it's becoming more important the more people that we have working for us.
Right.
So, and I think one thing we've implemented recently, which is your suggestion, Ryan, which I think is a great one, is having weekly check-ins with people. You know, just even having some FaceTime with people or a phone call.
I had that written down as a note. The note that I wrote down was meetings, unnecessary evil.
It's true. I mean, I think we were saying this back in 2019 about how people that are entrepreneurs want to work for themselves are very skeptical of the concept of having meetings and
anything that seems
procedures, corporate, right? It seems like, oh God, like this is why I left corporate America.
Right.
But as I said then, and I continue to agree with conceptually, there's a purpose why these companies have these things, and to the extent that we implement them, I mean, we're not having people fill out forms or whatever every day, but having check-in meetings, having some type of procedures, having checklists, things like that, are hugely important.
Yeah, and I think as we go along,
they're important for the manager, I think, more so than the employee. And so when you're an employee, you're like, oh, these are stupid. But when you're in the position of a manager, it's like, oh, I get it.
I agree they're important for the manager, but I do think they're important for the managed. Because at least the way that I work, I know I benefit from structure. Mm-hmm. And sometimes when there are things that I'm overwhelmed with or overwhelmed by or struggling with, sometimes a little bit of structure and a little bit of force or guidance is what I need.
Yeah.
And sometimes a checklist or some type of like bureaucratic mechanism is the way to unlock a little bit of that momentum. But I think it's also important to bear in mind that as we go along, I think it's each, meetings themselves, like just having a meeting is not going to solve problems. It's about having the right meeting at the right time and approaching the meeting in the right way. So I think it's important to like constantly be reflecting on that and not just fall into the habit of doing things for the sake of doing things because it seems like what you're supposed to do. I think a related thing or maybe a subtopic of leading people and managing people is the means through which we can hold people accountable. I don't think that's something that we were great at when we first started. I think it's not something that we are all that great at today, but I think it's something that we're definitely getting better at. I think things
Yeah.
like these meetings are
Exactly.
in that
Yeah.
direction.
Yeah. I think like the kind of concept of confrontation in that sense has always been difficult for us. And we've talked about this before, I think maybe even in this context exactly. But yeah, like sort of calling people out is tough and letting people go is tough. And we've had both of those that have come up to us. I think we're trying to kind of be faster and better about that. But I think the fact that we're thinking about it and talking about it is a step towards doing some of these things. So, yeah.
Right.
Don't forget to visit us at brickxbrickrealestate.com for free content to help you along your real estate journey and to follow along on our projects. Subscribe and rate us on your favorite podcast app and engage with us online via Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and brickxbrickrealestate.com. See you next time on the Brick by Brick podcast.